Hey guys, it's Grand Admiral Thrawn, and I'm back with another Black Series review. Happy holidays, everybody. It's that special time of year, which means it's time for me to do my one and only channel tradition of every year around this time, I make one Christmas Black Series review. I've done this for the past 2 years now, and I'm not letting it stop this year. And, I don't know what, but there's something off about this video. What could it be? I got it. I'm not in my full Christmas form of the Santa Lorian. The hat's going to keep falling off throughout the video, and it's going to get me very mad, but I'm going to keep putting it back on. Anyway, Hasbro does this thing with their Black Series in that every year they release a couple of Christmas-themed Black Series figures. They do the same thing with Halloween, except those ones aren't as popular. Anyway, so I've done one of these figures so far. I did the Santa Claus Jawa, and this year I'm doing the Christmas Holiday Edition Stormtrooper, which is meant to be a Stormtrooper disguised as a reindeer, or just a reindeerified Stormtrooper. And I don't want to say this as a bad thing, because I do actually really like this figure. I want to get that out of the way right now. But I kind of feel like Hasbro isn't putting as much energy into these figures as they used to. Because nowadays it kind of just feels like take insert name character and turn them into Santa Claus. Because they're doing it with R2 this year, it kind of feels like they're not putting as much energy into it. And granted, a reindeer Stormtrooper doesn't sound like the greatest idea for a figure, but it works a lot better in execution than you would think. So with that out of the way, I feel like it's time for me to talk about the one and only reindeer Stormtrooper. And I actually do really like this figure, otherwise I wouldn't have bought it. But I really like how this actually looks like if you turned a Stormtrooper into one of Santa's reindeer. In that they did a great job of picking a color of brown in particular. Like, this is a nice brown. They could have done a darker one or a lighter one, but I like the middle ground they went with. I like how his feet are actually black in order to represent the hooves. I like how his hands, with the exception of like the wrist armor, is black to represent the hooves. And I like just how they mix it out perfectly throughout the figure. The legs are all brown, but when you get to the stomach, this Stormtrooper has a white belly in order to represent him being a reindeer. He would have a white neck if it wasn't the fact that he was wearing a helmet. And he has little white spots throughout his helmet. That's pretty cool. I really like how they turned a Stormtrooper into a reindeer. He actually looks like one. And yes, they did reuse the Stormtrooper mold. They're not going to make a brand new mold that they can only use once. However, it still does a pretty good job. The only thing I would say that could have been better are the antlers, because what they did for the antlers was they just drilled a hole in the back of the helmet and then stuffed this in there, so that way it's meant to look like reindeer antlers. And it's good enough. You know what? I'll say that. It's good enough. It could have been better, but it's good enough, and I like it the way it is. It looks like a Stormtrooper as a reindeer. And I think my favorite thing about this figure are the little details that it comes with. For example, this Stormtrooper has dark green eyes instead of black eyes. I think that's actually really cool. I like how his medal that is, I guess, to represent his sleigh bells is actually just a mini Death Star. That's really cool that they put that on there. I like just all the accurate little Stormtrooper details that they have on here, because this is a good Stormtrooper mold in general, which I might review another day with the real one. But I really like all that little detailing, like on his ankles, they have how the Stormtrooper legs are different, like the one leg has this little ammo thing on it, and how his wrists have all the detailing. They did a good job. I like his little ammo belt around his waist, and I like just all the detailing they gave this Stormtrooper. And then they added more detailing on him when they turned him into a reindeer. However, I want to go over his accessories real quick before I finish the review of the Stormtrooper. So, the only accessory for the Stormtrooper is he has his blaster. However, I believe they turned it into a Nerf gun, which is actually really cool because now you can give your Star Wars Black Series figures a Nerf gun instead of their blaster and pretend that this character doesn't have a real gun in a battlefield where everybody else has real guns. I just think that's really funny that you could do that now. And I'm pretty sure it's a Nerf gun because of the whole blue and orange color scheme. It's just your average Stormtrooper blaster, but it's a really creative idea to turn just the blaster into something creative, because they could have just given him a normal blaster, but they turned it into a Nerf gun, and I think that's really cool. And I do like how the blaster actually fits into his hand very nicely. It works very well. The figure stands up well and has good balance and display for your collection. And I like this little detail that I don't think they meant to do, but if you wanted to, you could put the Stormtrooper on all fours and have him be like he's a reindeer, like this. And then if you wanted to, I'm not going to do this, but you could buy 7 more of this figure, and then you could have Santa's entire fleet of reindeer. However, I do think they could have turned this one into Rudolph. And I think the only reason they didn't was so that way maybe somebody is crazy enough to buy 8 of these things. But yeah, now you have no Rudolph, and if you want one, you'd have to buy a 9th figure and to give it a little red dot for a nose. Oh well, that's still a pretty cool figure, and I think I'll talk more about it later. But for right now, this figure actually comes with 2 other little characters, both of which are Star Wars' mascots from The Last Jedi, Porgs. This figure comes with 2 Porgs as its accessories, on top of the blaster. Now, the first Porg is actually really creative in that he's a little snowman Porg. And the only articulation he has is in his arm wings, which are pretty cool. And I like how they gave him little coal buttons and a little carrot nose. It's very cute for a little Porg. However, with the other Porg, it's a lot less obvious of what they were going for, in that this is just a transparent dark blue Porg. So I've narrowed it down to that it's one of 2 things. It's either representing a Porg ghost, for like a Christmas ghost, or it's a Porg frozen in ice. Both of those are extremely dark. This either means that there's a Porg that's dead, or a Porg that's dying, freezing to death. What is with this Porg hate? Like, seriously, this Porg does not deserve either of those 2 things. But anyway, I think those are both really cool, creative little accessories to give the Stormtrooper. And yeah, I just really think this was a creative little one. It's not their most creative idea. I think, like, this is actually one I came up with that I would really hope to see Hasbro do. I think it would be really cool if they did Bib Fortuna as the Grinch. I don't know how they would pull that off, but I just thought that would make for a really creative holiday edition figure. But anyway, a Stormtrooper reindeer may not sound like the best idea, but I swear this one actually does work in execution a lot better than it sounds. Real quick, I'm going to talk about the box, and then I'm going to come back for my final thoughts on the figure. So I actually am a big fan of the holiday edition boxes. They have these really cool, creative little designs in that they take the snowflakes that are on the box and they turn them into creative ones for each figure. For example, this one comes with snowflakes that have Stormtrooper helmets and the Imperial insignia on it. And it's really cool. I love the winter, just sense of joy that this box gives you, in that it feels like it's both a gift to someone and it's like a winter wonderland. On the side here, it has a nice, cool little sticker of to and from that you could write on. I'm not going to, but it's still pretty cool. And it's just a really cool box that's easy to access the figure. So yeah, I think this is a nice little box. That's all you really need from it. And it's still pretty cool at how they inserted some clever little things into it. So yeah, I think this figure comes with a really nice box. And like I've said so far, the figure, it could have been a little more creative, but I'm honestly not docking it any points for that. It's still a pretty nice figure in execution, and I think its little things are where it shines the most. The Stormtrooper reindeer is really cool. The antlers I would be careful with because these are very fragile. I haven't broken any yet, but like I can just tell that since this is just one little piece of plasticky fabric, if it breaks, then you have to buy a whole new one. There's no fixing it. And then the Porgs are a nice little addition to help justify you spending this much. So overall, I think this was actually a really nice addition to the Hasbro Holiday Edition Christmas figures. I'm going to be giving it a... You know what? It's Christmas. I'm going to give this figure a 10 out of 10. And before I go, there was one thing I wanted to state. My original plan, instead of the Santalorian, was to do an original character that would have me wearing these reindeer antlers on top of the helmet, but I hate to break it to you, these aren't fitting on this helmet. The hat barely even stays on. I don't know how I actually got it to stay on this whole video. I've done so many takes so far, and the hat just keeps falling off. Oh well. But anyway, I think this is a nice little holiday figure that I recommend you pick up if you want one of the Christmas figures. It's a nice, harmless little addition to your collection. And at worst, you can just stick it in the background and have that be that one Stormtrooper that thought it was Casual Friday. Yeah, so, I don't know. It's a nice figure, in my opinion. This is Grand Admiral Thrawn signing off, and I wish you all a happy holidays, or, in my case, a Merry Christmas. See you next year. Bye.